Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for April 21st. On this day in 1989, Nintendo changed handheld gaming forever. The company released the original Game Boy in Japan with a Western release following a few months later. The system had its roots in Nintendo's Game & Watch line, which first began rolling out in 1980, but unlike those devices which could only play single primitive games, the Game Boy was much more advanced. It had an 8-bit CPU, making it comparable to the NES, albeit with fewer colors, and just like the NES, it had cartridges to swap out different games. It's easy to forget just how revolutionary the idea of being able to play video games on the go was when the Game Boy first came out. The popularity of the system was also driven by launch titles like Super Mario Land and the puzzle game Tetris, to which Nintendo had secured the exclusive console and handheld rights. The Game Boy wasn't the first handheld gaming device, but it was the first to take off, and it sold 65 million units worldwide. Nintendo followed it up with an entire line of Game Boy devices like the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance, and the system eventually evolved into the DS and today's 3DS. Nintendo unleashed another iconic gaming phenomenon a few years earlier on April 21st, 1984. The light gun shooter Duck Hunt was released on the NES in Japan. Designed to be used with the NES Zapper peripheral, Duck Hunt featured primitive gameplay where users could shoot at ducks or more animal-friendly clay pigeons, complete with an annoying dog that sadly could not be shot. The most ingenious thing about Duck Hunt is how it worked. At the time, many assumed that the zapper was shooting an invisible laser at the screen that the game then detected, but it was actually the other way around. When users pulled the trigger, it created a frame of black that the zapper could then read to determine where it was aimed. So instead of shooting at the screen was shooting at you. Duck Hunt was such a hit in Japan that Nintendo bundled the game as a launch title with Super Mario Bros. When the NES was released in North America the following year. Hunting for ducks is fun, but on this day in 1934, people in Scotland were hunting for a monster. The infamous surgeon's photograph, allegedly showcasing the Loch Ness Monster, was first published in the tabloid newspaper The Daily Mail. Local legends of the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, had circulated Scotland for centuries, but when the surgeon's photograph was published, it created a wave of publicity catapulting the monster to international fame. Aspiring monster hunters from all over the world rushed to Loch Ness in the years that followed, with several other grainy photographs of the monster surfacing. Unfortunately, it was all a hoax. In 1994, the person behind the surgeon's photograph admitted on his deathbed that the photo was a fake, and there has since been no verified evidence that the Loch Ness Monster actually exists. If it's really out there, it has yet to be discovered.